Hello, friends. I know some of you have heard my origin story, right? The one about my grandpa who had a massive heart attack and almost died when he found out that my white mom married my black father. Boom! Well, my grandfather, he hated black people. His social circle hated black people. And here's the thing, my grandfather didn't actually know any black people, okay? He knew of them through the people that he trusted. And his trusted sources were simply borrowing the opinions of their trusted sources. Kind of like throwing a stone in a pond and the ripple, our perspectives spread as well, friends. And when my grandfather met my father, he realized my dad was just a hardworking guy who loved my mother. And they connected on a human level beyond their differences and became friends. Now, let's be real though. Like, did my grandfather stop hating Black people overnight because of one friendship? Yeah, not likely. One friendship or relationship doesn't magically unprogram a brain that's been fed millions of messages, whether directly or indirectly, telling you that a group of people is bad or dangerous. That just isn't how it happens. These stereotypes had been ingrained in my grandfather's life from the beginning of his life. I've heard a lot of people say, I don't have a racist bone in my body. Yeah, they might be right. Our bones aren't racist, but our brains are another story, my friends. It's human nature for us to want to belong to a tribe. It's just how we're wired. And how do we draw the borders of that tribe? With common beliefs, backgrounds, same socioeconomic statuses, race, gender. I mean, the teams we support. Go Bucks! I'm a diehard Buckeye fan. Down with any Michigan fans. I'm just kidding. We can still be friends, Michigan fans. I just might make funny. But it's okay. We're friends. The neighborhoods we live in are ways that we draw those borders, and even the news that we watch and we absorb. Anyone who doesn't share our common beliefs then becomes our thems, us's versus them. What ultimately turned my grandfather around, in addition to the deep love he had for his daughter, heart attack didn't hurt, and her steady insistence to meet my dad. She kept telling him, you have so much more in common than what you think. Just take a risk and meet him. And it was those things that eventually trumped his hatred, and he was willing to take a risk and meet my father. And when he met my dad, my mom was right. They clicked instantly and they became friends. There were endless supplies of things they could talk about for things they had in common, from being lovers of outdoors to hardworking men to cars. Oh my goodness, did they bond over being under the hood of a car together. Changing his mind about Black people in general, though, I mean, let's be honest, it took a whole lot longer. But over time, he started to realize something simple yet very profound. They were just people too, trying to work. They were trying to live, raise kids, survive, just like everybody else. But listen, let's empathize with my grandfather in his social circle. I mean, imagine what his social circle was likely saying about him. But most of his beliefs about Black people didn't come from neighbors and friends. They were shaped by his own father's hatred, which means he was probably surrounded by pressure, potential disappointment, and judgment when his mind started to shift from the person he loved so much, his own father. And now my mom, she describes my grandfather Carl as a crotchety old fart who didn't give his grandkids anything. After my older brother Sean was born, he was, by the way, the first biracial child that my mom's family had ever been exposed to. They decided to take a trip to visit with my great grandfather. He lived in Wisconsin at the time. Sean was his very first great grandchild. And my mom describes the day that they met. My great grandfather wouldn't even interact or look at my dad or my brother until she revealed that she had named her firstborn after my great grandfather. His name is Sean Carl. And that's when everything changed. And my great grandfather started playing with Sean. And I guess they absolutely fell in love, and nobody else in the room even existed. Everybody else was chopped liver because of this instant bond that my great grandfather had for this child that was named after him. And my great grandfather gave Sean one of his prized possessions, which was a genuine sailor's hat from his Navy days. And, it just dawned on me as I'm telling you this story that my brother also became a Navy man. And I wonder if it was that moment and that experience that shaped his identity and his sense of belonging, even his future career path. Possibly. That's the power of who we're around, the power of who sees us, the power of who welcomes us in. And when we push beyond our programmed beliefs and think critically about what we believe and why, we can think for ourselves rather than be unconsciously pushed around by the thoughts and ideas of our social circles. I reflect a lot on love thy neighbor. Like, what does that look like today? Unfortunately, it has taken a twist, I think, in terms of what it was intended for. So often now we can walk by a neighbor's yard sign for political candidate and our minds get judgy. Like, oh, they support that candidate. They're one of them, not one of us. Or we see a post denouncing genocide in Palestine and we think, oh, they're one of them, not one of us. We overhear someone supporting a policy decision made by Donald Trump, and we think, oh, they're one of them, not one of us. All of us judge. I don't care how intelligent you are, darling. It is human nature, friend. Our brains are inherently judgy. And we do not have control over those judgy thoughts that pop into our minds. Those snap judgments can show up like an automated feed from our environment, shaped by the people that we trust, the content we consume, the experiences we've had over a lifetime. While we may not be able to control our very first thought, we do have the power over our second thoughts. And that's where unifiers are made. Because the danger is when a tiny point of data then becomes a total verdict over someone's character. It's like tasting a crumb of a meal, tasting a crumb of someone's story, and deciding that you know the whole meal. It's like missing one question on a quiz and failing for the entire school year. It's just imbalance. But that's what our brains do. They dupe us into seeing one little signal that someone might be one of them, and then they become a threat. They become less human. They become someone that it's okay to treat differently. And then suddenly that unconscious script starts talking like this. I don't consider them a neighbor. So love thy neighbor. Oh, it doesn't apply. I'm justified in seeing them as an enemy. So my behavior is warranted. It's okay to treat them differently. So here's our moment. Here's your moment. Next time you catch yourself doing a full character evaluation based on one slide of information, let that be your new trigger. Not a trigger to judge, not a trigger to shame yourself, but a trigger to choose curiosity. So I encourage you to try this second thought. I don't know everything about this person, so I can't judge everything about this person. Friends, being a unifier begins with thinking about how we think and choosing our actions accordingly. And it also begins with consciously evaluating the influence of our social circles because our social circles are the ones that shape our thoughts when it matters deeply. Who we're surrounded by, who we trust, and which perspectives we regularly absorb. And that's why I created the social circle inventory. It is an eye-opening, non-threatening tool that helps you illuminate the invisible influence and inputs shaping your thinking so you can choose your circle and make better decisions with more intention. And so if you want to be a unifier, not a divider, how can you not evaluate and look at what's influencing how you think? And so I'm going to gift this to you. It's a tool that I use in leadership retreats and in coaching with my clients. And I'll just gift this to you, no strings attached. Use it to evaluate your insights and your thoughts. And if you want to talk further, you know how to find me. Just visit me at melissamajors.com and we'll set up some time to debrief your results and figure out how you too can become more of a unifier versus a divider. Mission over movement, friends. Unity over outrage. Take care.